Wow, what a great day. That's my little wink for what's gonna happen. We're talking about WoW today. It's just me and Taylor. So we're kind of doing this episode as just a little follow-up to our previous one. All of one listener, namely Ryan, will probably hear this. No one else gives a fuck about WoW. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
This is for you, Ryan. Shout out. Yeah, this is just gonna be our last episode was kind of just us reminiscing about WoW, talking about what we're going to talk about today, which is Legion Remix, the specific kind of game mode within WoW that we were excited to play but hadn't actually played yet because it wasn't out yet. Now, it came out October 7th. I have played it basically every single day since it came out.
I checked my /played.
I was just gonna actually log in to do that live.
So I'll do that while giving you time to get your client to boot up and shit. I checked mine last night. My monk has at max level only 1 day, 20, I think it was 22, 23 hours. So about 40 hours at max level. I also had a death knight. I got to max level and almost immediately switched over.
I forgot you did that.
So like so I probably played maybe 55, 60 total hours, give or, plus or minus 5, I think at this point.
Yeah, so for me, my total time played 3 days and 17 hours. So let's math this out real quick. Let's out myself embarrassingly.
You've got like 24 hours on me. If you combine,
okay, it's basically 100 hours divided by 19 days it's been out.
Yeah.
I didn't actually kind of play it until that Wednesday, so there's 1, 2, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 days. Yeah. Yikes, guys.
What are you averaging?
I have played an average of 5 hours per day.
Kyle. And you don't even have 999 versatility. What the fuck are you doing?
Okay, so, as a little caveat to that amount of time, there are a handful of hours that are AFK, right? Like I'll be doing something and then get a work email and have to go switch over to that and do work shit. But I would guess there's no more than like 5 to 6 hours of AFK time. No,
I will say,
I'd say maybe there's like 8 hours, but still, I've been playing this like so much.
Yeah,
I've been loving it.
It is very bizarre to see sometimes when I sit, I'm at my work computer, because the way my desk is set up, I have an L-shaped desk, right? And on the long L, I have my personal computer, my big game mat, all that stuff. And then on the shorter L is my, work stuff. So in a lot of ways, what I can do is like on break is I can just I don't even have to move the chair, just spin it. And I can see my personal computer and just see you in Emerald Nightmare. Is such a bizarre thing to see. All these years later, is to see Kyle playing World of Warcraft by himself in a raid. I don't know. It's obviously a much different beast than what I was doing, but it's still very funny to see.
Yeah, because as I mentioned last time, I've never been a huge WoW guy. I basically played it when it first came out because it was a craze, but I didn't get max level or anything. I played because the world was really engrossing and it was really, really special and fun to engage with that. But I didn't have the patience as a young lad to spend. I mean, at the time, it probably took hundreds of hours just to get to max level. Then you have a whole different beast when you're max level of gearing up and doing raids and dungeons and all these other things. So I just didn't have the patience for any of that. So I played it, enjoyed the world, but then quit. Then Battle for Azeroth came out 7 years ago.
Yeah, and the big introduction, too, was it had level boosts, so you didn't have to do any leveling.
Right.
It just kind of shortcut you. That's how we got you to play with us for a little bit.
And I played at the end of Battle for Azeroth. So expansions are out for 2 years usually, and then a new expansion comes out, and then that'll, they'll add patches, add stuff, you play it for 2 years, and the next expansion comes out. So I didn't even play Battle for Azeroth until the very tail end of it. It was summer of 2020, COVID summer, that I got the character boost. I boosted up to play with these guys because they were doing endgame content and they were kind of getting bored because the next expansion was coming out in 5 months. So they were at the very tail end of the expansion, and they're like, yeah, you got nothing to lose, just fucking try it out, play with us. So that, from vanilla WoW coming out in 2004, I basically didn't play it until 2020, 16 years. I played WoW when it was a 16-year-old game. So yeah, it was quite a different experience. But then I had a lot of fun doing the end game content. I character boosted to skip the leveling process, which took, many dozens of hours, which I just didn't want to spend doing. So I got to max level and just did end game stuff with Taylor and Eric and Dylan and Austin. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Then after that, the next expansion came out, and I played launch night of that expansion, and just the magic was gone.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened. It was a fucking light switch flipped, and I was like, oh, I don't like this game anymore. And I stopped playing WoW for 5 more years until this.
I am still so, like, dumbfounded by that sequence of events. Is like, I can't fathom, like, a faster, like, I guess I don't like having a stroke trying to say this. Just having you one day play like the next day and you just being like the most like, it reminded me of like how you used to engage with WoW and being like, none of this is good. I don't like any of this. What the fuck am I doing with my life? And then just never thought about it a day after. And it's just like, it's so strange. Like you were on drugs that entire summer. You were high on COVID or something where like you were able to see through the Matrix and see that stuff. But then like you saw the very first obstacle where it was like the intro wouldn't let you mount and you couldn't quite figure out where to go. It was like, nah, I'm not fighting through this. It was like, to be fair, I was not far behind you on quitting. But I did think it was pretty funny.
Yeah. No, well, I guess, my game, that is how I play games. I don't know why. This is just kind of always how I've been, where I will find a game that I like. I will play it obsessively, like in this case, fucking 5 hours a day for 20 days straight. And then, like you said, I like that analogy, seeing through the Matrix. It literally is like one day I will log in, and it will almost be an existential moment where I'm like, why am I doing any of this? I'm not enjoying this anymore. I'm done. It's literally just a one day it will happen. It's almost never like a gradual decline, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, yeah, it's just, I turn into Neo and I see the Matrix and I realize that it's
literally
all
happened with
pointless.
me with Destiny 2. So I don't know why I'm as weirded out by that. It's just like, it didn't happen. And like, WoW, for me,
it doesn't happen as often for you. That's just like how I play games.
What happens, and maybe this is actually something with like getting older at the same time, because that's actually been happening with me lately, of where like I'll start a game, I'm like, I am doing chores. This is a chore to me. I'm thinking about the way to get this done as fast as possible. What the fuck? And like that just happened to me, but what I realized is it wasn't a game. It was like 85% of the games I've been playing for years at that point, so I didn't know what to do with myself. And what I found interesting is like I had that exact same moment with WoW, I think just a little bit later than you in the expansion, when I just truly realized I was like, I used to do the chores because I knew I could raid, and the raids were so much fun that to me that was part of the payoff, was like you put in the work and you get the results out of it. But now that I had no social connection to that game mode, it was exclusively just me, because even when I played a lot, it was almost only me and Austin, and Austin and I didn't chat a lot, but like at least I had that one bond there. And then I don't know, something about like having to find a new group was just like so daunting that I was like, this is just a chore now. I'm not getting the payoff, because I know I won't be able to engage in the end game content. So why am I doing the beginning? It is a very strange thing. But then why I started playing retail WoW again was I actually came full circle of like, I'm never going to raid. So just getting the fun cosmetics is the reason. It's just like, it's playing and I think you'll even back me up this a little bit, playing the classes, assuming you like tab targeting MMOs, like the concept in and of itself doesn't bother you. Class design can be so fun if you find the right one. Just like hitting the buttons, seeing the things go off, the chaining, and like, for me, the damage meters of like seeing myself slowly get better. Like all that still can kind of exist. And like, so playing Elemental Shaman is still fun to me. And that's kind of, I'm using that as an excuse to, engage with that do some old content, make some money. I don't know, buy a WoW token. I don't know. Who knows what I'm going to do with it? But just a random tangent to be. Yeah, I had a similar experience.
For me, yeah, I'm playing this mode strictly because the mode itself is fun. I have zero interest in retail WoW. As soon as this mode is over in 2 months or whatever, I'm not gonna play WoW anymore. But to circle back, I wanted to focus more on specifically Legion Remix. What this mode is, our experience playing it, because we started playing this with Eric and Daniel. Shockingly, I was gonna drop that bomb on everybody that like, wow, Daniel's been playing WoW with us. But shocker, he hasn't really. He's like level 20 and, you know, he'll play for like 30 minutes at a time once a week. And I just, you know, I'm sure he wants to play, but he's busy and it's just, you know,
wrong place,
sit at home
right
and play
game,
games.
wrong. I think it's just like where he is in his life. It's not the best time for him. So I get it.
Also, we started off with this idea that like Taylor would be a tank, me and Eric would DPS, and Daniel would heal, and then we could have basically you need 5 people to do dungeons at the very least. That's like the end game content that you would end up grinding. And so we were like, oh, if the 4 of us could fill out all the main roles, we would just need to pick up one random DPS for our dungeons every day, and we could just run dungeons. Well, long story short, in this particular game mode, you do not need healers because of the way how powerful everybody is getting. And the systems that allow your character to become strong, it's like you just don't need heals because all these characters have self-sustain. You level up stats that make you insanely tanky and hard to kill. So even as just a pure damage dealer, you don't need heals. So
you don't
like
even
Daniel's,
need tanks arguably anymore.
Right, yeah. So like the whole premise just kind of fell apart, and that's something that no one really knew how the meta was going to shake up. Everyone suspected that like tanks and damage would be kings, but no one knew quite how irrelevant healers would be.
I also think it is that each person was bringing so much power that wasn't taken into consideration of like, you don't need 5 people to do anything except the most like impossible level content. Like, yeah, it in a way of like, I am soloing mythics like for the bronze caches, just as like a fun, like I had 3 quests, one doing normal, heroic, then mythic, assault on Violet Hold. I was like, I'll just do a mythic by myself. Because, you know, I thought, and it's just like, it's a fucking joke. Like, it's so easy. I'm killing an elite pack that used to take 5 people with coordinating things, like upwards of a minute to do this one encounter, and I did it all by myself without using a single cooldown in like, 15 seconds, maybe?
It's like To try to put it into perspective, the power level of our characters compared to normal, it is literally thousands of times more powerful.
I truly couldn't. You can't express it because it's either you understand the systems and the numbers are so high that they can't possibly be. That's what they meant, because those numbers are just too high. Or you don't understand the game systems and those numbers don't mean anything. And you're like, well, I guess everything just has billions of health. No, you just like, I do about roughly 40 million DPS, and most enemies have not
like
nearly.
Elite enemies will have like 120 million health. So
yeah, like dungeon bosses have a couple 100 million. It is so absurd. The idea of even soloing a dungeon isn't possible until you have like the content is like levels below you where their health plates are gray. They miss 90% of their attacks. No, they do all of their mechanics at full damage. You just have so much damage reduction, because I think the thing that I never realized, when you're scaling up versatility, which is the stat that just says you do percent increased damage and you take percent decreased damage. Yep. That stat eventually gets to the point where you take 99% reduced damage. Just flat.
I will say they do have I believe they have a cap on it. That's not
it's
true.
It's 99%.
Oh, the cap is 99%.
Yes.
Okay.
The damage will keep your damage increase will keep scaling, but your damage reduction stops at 99%.
Okay, so they generously let the enemies do 1% of their damage to you.
Yeah,
That's nice. So yeah, like actually to put it into perspective, I'll try to anyway, again, is like the dungeons that we were doing in 2020 in Battle for Azeroth, me, you, Eric, Dylan, Austin, the 5 of us, the dungeons that we were running as a 5-man, all of us with really, really good endgame gear, like you said, you know, little trash mobs, little packs of monsters could take us 30 seconds to a minute to kill. Now, we are so strong that me or Taylor, by ourselves, kill those same packs in something for me, because I have a lot more versatility than you. Not a lot more, but like, you know, I'm at 190 something and you're at 120 right now.
Yeah.
So I just do straight up 70% multiplicative more damage than you.
Yes.
You know, I like kill these mobs in 2 or 3 moves, which is, you know, 3 seconds. So I am... You take 5 people, combine their power over the course of a minute, and then dilute that into 3 seconds. That's how much more damage I'm doing. So it's like, you know, 5 times 20. It's actually I'm 100 times more powerful than 5 people.
And the other thing that they also did was I really did get to feel this as they uncap, or there's no diminishing returns on the secondary stats, so you can have 100% critical strike chance and 130% haste and stuff. And there are times where I'll have too much haste, where my cooldowns are too fast. Like, because I have a bunch of I have like a 4-second cooldown and 8-second cooldown that are built into my rotation, that it gets too fast where I can't hit enough of my other buttons because those come off cooldown too quickly. So I need to remove haste. Like, that's how fast we're getting it. There's a cooldown I have that increases my critical strength by 100%. I'm already at 80. I don't even need this thing. It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, the crit boost doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, so for me, lucky for me, the way that my character is built, I alternate between 2 skills. So I have enough haste that the ability I'm supposed to spam is a 1.3 second cooldown, and the global what's the global cooldown?
I think it's 1.5. I'm gonna double check.
I was timing it today, and it's not. It's for sure not.
I might be thinking of the Final Fantasy 14.
I thought it was a 1.5 seconds as well. I thought that, but then when I was watching my abilities today, I couldn't finish the word 1000 when it was already off cooldown. I think
1.5
it's like
seconds.
0.75.
It is 1.5 seconds.
No, it's got to be
though
shorter.
It can be
Legion.
reduced by haste. Your GCD is then.
Oh my fucking god!
Yeah, so it's proportional. So it's kind of like it's tough to like some things scale differently, but yes, it's 1.5 base. Modified by haste.
Okay, so that would explain why mine is. It feels like it's about half a second to 3/4 of a second now for me, and I have like 130 haste or 150 haste, something like that. Anyways,
50% haste gives you a 1 second global cooldown according to the calculations. So
okay, so
50% is 0.5.
That's it. Okay, that's like exactly what I have.
There you go.
I was roughly timing it out today. So anyways, the 2 moves that I spam between the 2 of them, like, they both come off cooldown when the other one can be used between using them and global cooldowns. So lucky for me, I have a 2-button build, and with how much haste I have and the global cooldowns, I only can hit about 2 buttons, like you're saying, you know, like, you have so much haste and everything happens so fast that your rotations, like, you better have a character that can dilute their rotation into like 2 or 3 buttons, because your haste is so high that you can't afford to be pressing 7 different buttons.
The best part too is it's reducing you to the best 2 buttons instead of the like you basically don't need the filler moves or the generators the way you used to.
So it's funny, I use Bloodthirst, and when I look at the DPS charts, usually when we're doing a boss and I can actually like go full out, use all of my cooldowns to buff myself, and then just start spamming my 2 moves, my Bloodthirst will end up doing like 300 million damage to a boss. Then next up is Fell Spike, that'll also be doing like 300 million, and then everything else is like 1% damage. Yeah. My Bloodthirst just hits like a fucking truck, and I spam it every like 1.5 seconds. It's so stupid. It's so simple. But, your builds are not supposed to work this way. It's just how this mode works. So, let's really try to reel it back and kind of start from the beginning. When I first started this mode, right, I actually had kind of a sinking feeling that, like, I didn't like WoW.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't express that to anybody because I was like, I'm going to give myself a couple days, really see if I can get into WoW. And, cut to the end. Obviously, that's not the case.
You got over the hump, whatever that hump was.
But yeah, it's just... So here's the thing. I really like the immersion in WoW. the world that they have built truly is like no other game that exists that I'm aware of. The scale of everything, the fact that you can just fly from continent to continent and watch things, but like it literally feels like you're in a plane. So like when you're on a flying mount, is how you get around in WoW is you have a mount that flies through the air really fast, and it's basically like a little airplane. It literally feels like when I get into an airplane and fly from Texas to Illinois or to Florida or whatever, like you just watch below you as the continent changes and you go across this fucking country. That's how it is in WoW. It's really remarkable. And obviously because it's a fake fantasy world, all of the different biomes are so unique. And watching, suddenly these 1,000-foot trees start to see, you can see them on the horizon, and as you approach, it's like, no, you're going into these trees now. Now you're in this crazy, gorgeous forest, and then from there you go into this fell-infested land where everything's been corrupted and destroyed, and it's all these demons, and there's giant portals and like green effects flashing everywhere, and you're in like a hellscape, and then you keep going, and then suddenly you're like on a nice little in a beach area where there's shit in the water, and like it's hard to explain without actually playing it. But part of what I love about WoW so much is that. And in Legion Remix, this mode that we're playing, where everything is hyper accelerated, you lose all of that kind of joy in discovery, because you complete things so fucking fast. Every quest is you spend more time clicking through the text of the quest than you basically do actually doing the quest. So when we first started, the first few hours is like, number one, you start at level 10. For some reason, I don't know why they don't.
So I can tell you why. The way it works in World of Warcraft, from level 1 to 10, you don't have a specialization.
So they just want you to start right away.
Yeah, you pick one, because it's based off having a specific spec weapon that you have to have a specialization.
Oh, right.
So that's why they start you at 10.
So yeah, in WoW, each class has 3 specializations, which, as their name implies, are like specific talent trees that modify the way your character works. So, for instance, if you play a paladin, there is a specialization holy that is focused entirely on healing. So you become a healer. You don't really do damage anymore. You just heal your party. Then there's another specialization called retribution, which is the damage-focused paladin. You no longer really heal. You have some protective stuff, but it's mostly about dealing damage, focusing your holy powers to fucking smite the enemies and kill them. So
what I like,
each
actually,
class,
the visual, just to expand it, to make it kind of simple, is like they have 2 talent trees. There's the paladin one, and then the specialization. I think that's a good example of like you get access to a second set of spells depending on your specialization. The holy ones are all the healing magics. Retribution are all the 2-handed weapon attacks, and then protection will be the sword and shield defensive moves. But there's that shared paladin one with that lay on hands, that instant heal someone to full health that you can do only once every 10 minutes. That's no matter who you are. And I think that's that. I like that the talent trees kind of have a good mirror of the example of like how it works, where some of the talents are the same. But anyway.
So yeah, so in Legion Remix, you start at level 10 so that you can pick a specialization right from level 1, and then your specialization is then tied to an artifact weapon, which is the whole point of this expansion, this artifact weapon that powers up with you. Normally in WoW and most games, you find a weapon, you use it for a while, then maybe you find a different kind of weapon that you want to try, or a more powerful weapon that you want to upgrade with. In this expansion, you get a super powerful artifact weapon from level 10 that you never ever change. And this is the thing that it levels up with you. It gets more powerful as you do. And, it kind of becomes a part of your character, which is a cool kind of twist on how gear normally works, where you swap it in and out. Now it's like, no, this is your thing, and you have this forever now. So it just gives you a little bit of a different feeling, as you're gearing up, not having to worry about a weapon and having that weapon get more powerful. What was nice
about that is it just felt like, part of your character kit. Like it felt like an extension of, and it was really cool of like, the weapon is always like the most powerful piece of equipment usually on a character. And to have that locked in forever kind of felt like you never had to worry about it. And you never like skimped on, whatever enchantments and stuff. You're like, oh, this is the weapon. I'm going to go all out, all right from the start. So that was always kind of a nice, weird, like side benefit of knowing you always had a weapon, is like, you weren't afraid to overspend on it because it'll always be the thing you have with you.
And that's what you funnel power into in this expansion. And instead of there normally being a cap to how strong this weapon can get, in this version, it can scale up infinitely. That's the whole gimmick. That's how we end up with these characters that are hundreds of times more powerful than, a full party of people in regular World of Warcraft. So, what I'm trying to illustrate is, I'm kind of simultaneously explaining how this mode works and also how I felt about it. You start at level 10 and you're doing quests so fast that the like kind of love for the world gets lost. You're worried about leveling so quickly because you want to get to the end game content because your weapon can scale infinitely. You want to get to the point where your weapon is maxed out, quote unquote, because these weapons have talent trees within them, which I didn't mention, but that's basically what you do is you build out this tree within the weapon. Then when that weapon tree is finished, then you start scaling infinitely on top of it. And you want to be getting to that point. You want to be doing raids. You want to be doing dungeons because there's this end game material, mementos, that power you up exponentially. So leveling just kind of gets lost. You don't care about it. It's just a chore to do to get to the end game, which is a problem that a lot of games have, like Path of Exile. Doing the campaign is just a fucking chore so that you can get to maps. In Diablo 3, leveling is just a pain. It's a chore that you do so that you can start spamming rifts and greater rifts at max level, leveling up your Paragon and getting your endgame gear. It's a Blizzard problem, really, but as I just said, I guess in Path of Exile, it's kind of an issue too. And you feel it more because WoW is such a fun, vibrant, engrossing world that having that big part of it, for me specifically, cut off and cut short, it killed a lot of my excitement early on top of the fact that a lot of characters aren't really fun until you get your full rotation of abilities and you start building out your talent trees and unlocking these specific moves that are tailored to your class. And in the beginning, I'm just like spamming this bash move that's really boring. And then every once in a while, I get to use an execute move when they're really low health. But my rotation is what it's called when you hit all of your buttons in the correct order and make your character do a rotation of skills that's optimal for you and does the most damage or does the most healing or does whatever. Your rotation doesn't get unlocked until quite a bit later. And normally that's okay because if the whole game is slow, that's all right. Like, you get used to the couple buttons you have, and then you add a new skill, and suddenly it's like a bit exciting. But in this version, because you're leveling so fast and you're unlocking skills so fast, but at the same time, you're not unlocking them fast enough that, like, you feel like you're doing your rotation, it was just boring and lame, and I don't know. Maybe I'm like explaining too much, but
I think what you're getting at is, like, you start to learn abilities almost too fast to be able to appreciate the incremental changes or understand what this change does to my abilities. Because some of them are just like, replace another one or modify it so now it crits more often. But is critting important to you? Because it might be, and critting might be super relevant. But those things happen so fast that you can't really take in what they're doing because the fights are so quick that you don't actually, none of those modifiers matter. You only hit the one button, one or two times, and quests are going so quick that, like, it's too simple, and then all the complexity you don't get to see because the fights are too simple too. So questing is just not good.
So the pacing is the word that I have been missing this whole time. The pacing is bad, and to put it as concisely as I can, it felt simultaneously too fast and too slow. It was too fast in that, like we're saying, enemies die really quick, you complete quests really quick, you're getting constant ability upgrades and changes that you're not really getting used to a rotation. Like you're saying, the nuance of what the abilities are changing just doesn't matter because everything's dying anyway. But at the same time, it's too slow because, like, things are dying so fast that I don't even care that I'm getting new abilities. And when I get new abilities, I don't really get a chance to, like, build them into my rotation and figure out what they do and how it works. And it just, the pacing is awful. And that was the first day of playing Legion where I was like, man, this is kind of shitty and lame.
What I think the consensus is, I don't think Remix is a good introduction to World of Warcraft.
No, It's not
I
really
think
WoW.
that
It's not WoW.
if you come from Final Fantasy 14 even, and this is your only experience, I think it would be actually okay. I think it as a, because like there's a lot of the MMO language that is kind of assumed in this experience. Like you don't need like the sped up level thing. It's obviously designed for people who are trying to literally skip this process, and the leveling experience only exists to like, I don't know, to say it's there, or in all honesty, it gave them lots of opportunities to give you loot. Like that's the real reason that leveling experience is there. It's like it's a way to I think the real reason it spreads everybody out throughout the whole world, so everyone's not doing the same thing at the same time. That's the real reason it still exists. But exists as much as it's a tool for people who already understand what to do with it and how to leverage it. But for someone who's trying to learn the game and questing and warriors and what I remember you asking, like, for your AoE abilities, like, what are your keybind layouts in your keyboards? Like, I had to think about it, like, oh yeah, I have, like, the way I have it keybinded, I have, like, you know, my buttons are bound in a very specific way for specific things, and that's kind of a universal MMO thing that you kind of had to relearn after taking years off, and Remix does not do a good job of catering to those people, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a weird beast because Legion Remix, the whole appeal of it to me was that it is this hyper sped up, really exponentially powerful version of WoW where you become a solo raid man, you know, like what normally takes 40 people in a raid, you can do by yourself eventually. Like that idea was really fun to me because that's the power fantasy that happens basically in an ARPG, you know, in Diablo 2, in Diablo 3, and Path of Exile,
Diablo
and Last
4,
Epic,
and
Diablo 5. No, but like that's the power fantasy that I always like the most is having this character start from a little guy using a fucking scrap of wood he finds on the ground to beat a goblin to death. It's like now you are just a flash of lightning exploding an entire screen and teleporting around. Like that's a really fun progression, and this version of WoW, Legion Remix, kind of promised that, and it delivered. You know, jump cut to the end. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and the power fantasy is very real. But it just confused. I didn't come into it with the right mentality, probably because, like I've said, I love the wonder of WoW, but that's not what you're playing this mode for. So when I had that realization, on top of the pacing being kind of clunky and bad, and the first few hours was just really. It's just a blitzkrieg of just quest. Don't care about what you're killing, who you're looking at, who you're talking to. It was just kind of like, it was like a whirlwind and turned me off a little bit. But then the next day, I got my rotation nailed down after getting a certain level, and then the game kind of clicked again. I was like, oh, now enemies are kind of hard enough. I have my abilities that I can actually use. They're not dying instantly, and I can actually practice my rotation now. Then the game kind of clicked, and I started having a lot of fun. And that was at like level mid-20s to 40.
Okay, so that was pretty fast. When you consider the scale.
It was literally the second day.
I have to ask: do you remember what ability, if there was like a specific like talent or something that maybe? I'm just really curious because I wanted to know when that moment was for you personally.
Yeah, it was Rampage.
Really? So, Rampage was the one. Yeah. Okay.
So Fury Warriors, their whole thing. I don't know who I'm fucking explaining this to because I know Ryan is going to be the only fucking one listening and he already knows this. But whatever. Fury Warriors, they build up Fury and then they spend Fury with with their spenders, and you only get like 100 Fury or so, and it generates very rapidly, but it also degenerates very rapidly. That's the whole, the Fury of the Warriors. Like, you get into combat and you build up this rage, and then you spend your rage. I guess it's called Rage, not Fury.
Oh, you're right.
Fury is for Demon Hunters.
That is your... it's also the specialization you are.
I am a Fury Warrior, but I use Rage, and I get enraged. So anyways, Rampage is your big spender. I had all these abilities that did damage, and they generated rage, but I had no real way to spend my rage. And now you unlock Rampage at level 20s or 30s, and it spends 80 rage. It's this huge spender, but you smack enemies 4 times in this big fury, and you do a ton of damage. And so suddenly it became very fun to use Bloodthirst, use Raging Blow, Raging Blow resets itself, it triggers, you use it again, then you get a crit with a Bloodthirst, and you Bloodthirst, and now you have enough rage, and you can use Rampage and go bah, 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 and smash these enemies down.
It's so funny to me.
It suddenly is fun.
It's like, you just think about it, though. It's just a few gameplay hours ago, you were hitting one button, the same one over and over, and then now you're like, I have 4 diverging choices I can make here, which is the most optimal thing, and like, having to do that's the game. I think that's what, I don't know how you articulate that gameplay system. Rotations is like the most fun. It tickles so many parts of my brain. I think Fury Warriors are really fun because they're very reactive because they're based off crits. Yeah, they have a lot of triggers. And what's also awesome about them is like their rage generation actually gets better as time goes on, because you are, obviously, as haste goes, you do more auto attacks, and those auto attacks get you rage, and those will start critting more often, which you do more rage, which allows you to do rampage more often, and like, so that to me is like, it's just so fun.
Yeah, it's this tab target combat, I guess, is that its official name?
That's kind of this very specific. That's always how it's described in like Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft. Yeah, tab target.
It's hard to even explain to people who are used to action games like Elden Ring or something, or you're used to,
for sure,
even RuneScape. It's like, how do you explain tab targeting? It's bizarre. It's like, it's kind of live action, but it's not
real time,
really...
and 3D, but your positioning is irrelevant in terms of like, it doesn't, I don't know, but you have to be facing, it's like an action game, but you just tell them like, hey, you should do this move next. And then they'll be like, yeah, I'll do it. It sounds, I don't know, it's so weird.
That's what I'm saying. So when I realized I had to explain the combat system to Daniel, because he has only played, games here and there, he mostly plays RuneScape. I was like, how the fuck do I actually explain tab targeting? It's like a step between turn-based and pure live action.
Yeah.
Like, all of your moves are on cooldown, and you have this global cooldown that prevents you from spamming moves at minimum. You can do one move every 1.5 seconds until you start building up haste. But regardless, it's like everything in the game is time gated, but you can also move around live action, but your positioning doesn't actually matter that much. Like, all you need to do is be facing your target. I don't know. It's a weird system to explain, but given the time it came out, right, 2004, and it's also, like, this existed in EverQuest and Dark Age of Camelot, tab targeting, it really is an evolution between turn-based and full live action.
I do think it is kind of a product of its time, and I think they've done a lot of things to make it feel not as clunky as it used to. It certainly doesn't feel like a live act. I'm sure it felt bad to Daniel, right? I am betting that.
I don't think so. He said it was fine.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He played it, got the hang of it, and was like, oh yeah, I get it. Okay, it's cool. Yeah,
but it's something that, like, you think it would be complicated, but it's not as weird as it sounds.
It's harder to explain than it is to actually play. Fast forwarding my experience here. Once it kind of came online and I was enjoying myself, I got to max level, and getting to max level, I believe, took me 17 hours. Which sounds like a long time, but in my case, it was about 2 days. And the normal level process probably takes, 10 times that to get to max level.
Yeah, I will say you are notorious to me for the, like, stopping to be like, oh, I got a new piece of gear, let me read, oh, which one of these two is better. And I think this game mode, like, if you just, like, didn't look at any of the piece of loot, you just didn't auto picked talents, didn't think about it, like, you could get that done in half the time, if not even faster than your play time.
I'll say I made a conscious effort to not care about gear because I knew how irrelevant it was, and I knew how fast I was leveling. It's like, obviously I'm not going to, spend 10 minutes deciding, is 1% crit better than 1% haste on this piece of gear, because in 2 seconds I'm going to be a higher level and get a better piece of gear. So I actually didn't pay attention to gear whatsoever.
Good. I just
I put on the highest item level that I could get, and that was the end of it. What actually took the most time for me was customizing everything to be playable and to my preferences. Because also, for somebody who might not know, MMOs are notorious for having a fucking billion things that you need to pay attention to on your screen. You need... It's not even worth explaining. You just have 1,000 fucking icons all over the place, and enemies are everywhere, and then their portraits are there, and your party stuff is over there, and you have your bags over here, and it's like... It's a whole thing that if you've played MMOs for a long time, it's perfectly fine, and you're just used to it, but as somebody who hadn't, and then came back after a really long time, it was quite overwhelming. So I had to customize the positioning of everything so that I wasn't so overwhelmed. I had to figure out which buttons felt comfortable to do which skills. I had to, like, I want to make my rotation as simple as hitting 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And then if I, something triggers, I'll go back to number 3. And then if number 3 is good, then I'll go back to number 4. Like, I want it to be that simple. So I had to figure out which skills were actually pivotal to my rotation. I had to figure out where to put them. So for the most part, I did end up with that. Like, I hit Q, E, and R the most, and then X is my big, like, spender move. Which is weird, but that's just how it ended up. I don't know. My muscle memory made it work. So, and you end up with approximately 40 different moves. 30 of them are for situational purposes only. 5 of them are like big cooldowns that you use every 1.5 minutes that really buff you up. So you usually use those when you're trying to burst down a boss or something that's really hard to kill. So then I had to find like comfortable buttons or places for those, etc. That's what I spent most of my time doing. And even then, you only got to level 80 a couple hours faster than me. It took me like 17. It took you like 12?
Yeah,
14?
Just 11 and some change to get to
11
max.
and some change. Okay. So between, while leveling, I had to go AFK for work and stuff. So I'll say like an hour of that was AFK time. But then it was like 3 hours messing with settings. Was entirely what I spent my time doing.
Honestly, that is where I spend, I think, probably... It takes a long time to get it just right for... I don't know how people can just default UI it. It is so difficult. Like, I need all of the micro adjustments to make it look just right. Because there is a lot of information, and not all of it you need, but there's people that, like... It is kind of a need at the same time.
And stuff will pop up later that you realize you do need that you didn't need 10 hours ago. For instance, like, I realized, wait, I can't actually tell when my character's enraged, and that's a huge mechanic for Fury Warriors. You have only certain moves will enrage you, and while enraged, you do a bunch of damage, but the enrage timer is pretty short. It's only like 3 or 4 seconds, and you can do certain things to extend that timer, but like it's a completely new mechanic that you have to manage. And there was no way for me to tell when I was enraged, except for in the top corner of my screen, a little icon that like, I can't look at that icon while I'm looking at my action bar to hit all my buttons, while looking at my character's positioning to make sure I'm not getting blasted by fucking AoE or stuns or whatever. So suddenly I'm like, wait, yeah, I need to manage this thing. How do I make it so that it's like right next to my character model? So like all I have to do is barely move my eye and I can see what the timer is. Now you have to go into the settings and figure out all that shit. And so that will happen pretty often. You'll realize there's certain buffs you need to track. There's certain triggers you need to track. There's new abilities you're learning that aren't actually like baked into the system properly. So now you have to go find a fucking add-on that helps you track that thing. And like, yeah, it occupies a lot of time customizing the game to your specs so that you can play it comfortably and consistently. Pretty much more so than any other game.
That's actually a huge problem in the new expansion coming out, Midnight, is that kind of trackable status thing where it's like you need to know when you're enraged, but the default UI does not give you the tools you need to make that easy and simple to do. And like they're disabling a lot of add-ons and the new expansion there. And people saying like I needed to get external tools to do this. You guys aren't doing a good enough job of letting us track things. And I think that is something you came across right away. Your very first character playing the game.
I honestly was baffled thinking about the fact that this game has been out for over 20 years. And people still have to use external programs to track things like damage per second to track things like a cooldown and put it next to your character model instead of having it, at the bottom of your screen where it's like really inconvenient to look down there while you have to pay attention to positioning, or like, I don't know, it just, and only apparently in this newest expansion coming out in February, they're finally like overhauling everything and making it so that you shouldn't need add-ons.
It's pretty complicated. It's like a long history because like technically in Dragonflight they started making small incremental changes because for a long time. I did
notice that, yeah.
And the big thing is like for a while what they were doing is instead of like they were just letting the community solve that problem because the community has decided they wanted to solve it. So it's kind of a thing of like they've never done any actual effort to fix it for like a decade because they intentionally didn't. And now they're doing something, and I think the fear is that they're not going to get enough right by the time the expansion launches because they are so far behind because they were like, the community seems to really love this aspect. They should take care of it. But now they're kind of like, okay, well, our boss design is getting so out of hand that you need external tools to do, and there's now even like a social stigma if you don't have those tools. So they kind of had to step in at some point, and it might be too late. We'll see. But I think the fact that you've already running into some of these problems is just going to be, I think the first raid in Midnight is going to be real ugly because of this. I think they won't get it right in fast enough. I think they'll get it right eventually, but I don't know if that's my.
But are they disabling add-ons?
Yes,
with this expansion.
So it's a combination of
they're
changing basically the way they display data in their like data mining end, that therefore external tools can't read information that is going on in the game, so their add-ons just functionally cannot work. Like the idea that like how the game might display, your character is enraged is being held somewhere differently, and if that information is private, no add-on can read that, know that information
into the game and see it. Yeah.
Yes. So the idea
that's crazy because this game, even with the customization that they've added, which to their benefit is a lot, is good. Like tracking my enrage and putting the icon right next to my character was in the game. I didn't have to do an add-on for that. I just had to go to their like a cooldown manager, which is a new thing since I've played.
Yeah, and that's the thing that is only good at in this usable state in the past year, maybe. So like this thing is pretty damn new. It's still not all the way there and not as customizable as you need it, but it's a good start. But like they're running out of time.
Yeah, that seems dangerous to do this big switch. So they're going to have an uproar. I'm sure they know what's coming too. There's going to be all these people complaining about all these different things
Kyle,
that they.
There's already drama because the big UI makers have come out and said that like, yeah, we're not doing one, and because they've now done it, like they can't go back. And one of the big ones is there's a UI called ELV UI. I always called it ELV UI. I don't know what it's called, but it is the most popular add-on. Full stop. And they are saying they are straight up not doing one for the expansion. And they're not, and this is not a combat add-on. It's just a UI like overhaul to make it look kind of more modern. It's got a lot of, the edit mode that you see in modern WoW. It's because ELV UI has that built in. Like that's why it's being, and it has way more modular pieces than the Blizzard one was at first. But any case,
and that. Yeah, what I was going to say too is that even to edit the things, it's complicated. Like you can't just hit escape and go to options and find what you need. There are certain aspects that are hidden behind right clicks. Like you have to right click certain elements on your screen to then edit that specific thing. So you have to right click it, click on the little edit button, then you get a different menu that's not accessible from the normal options that you edit from there. So for someone like me who, when I was playing by myself, I was like, why the fuck can't I just see this cooldown here? And it's like, oh, because you have to open a separate menu, and I had to figure out where to right click to then open this sub menu. So like,
it's a PC game. It is deeply in the like fiddly menu, like kind of Linux shit.
It's like over engineered, and
it's just 20 years of adding systems on top of systems on top of systems. It gets real hard to pick a specific system to med it. Sucks.
So, back to Legion Remix. now we're max level, and this is where sort of the game begins, quote unquote. You hit a certain point where your item level is high enough that you only get new item upgrades via these specific chests that you now only get from dungeons and doing these specific quests that are refreshed daily. They're called infinite research quests, and there'll be things like, kill enemies in heroic world tier difficulty, or complete this specific dungeon on heroic, or complete this specific dungeon on mythic, or collect these specific herbs. And these are just infinitely repeatable quests that you can get every day. You can get like 3 or 4 of them every day. And now this is where like the daily login chore grind kind of begins. You can only do mythic and a heroic and a normal version of every raid once per day, which I found out the hard way. I thought, oh, cool, I can just grind raids now. Nope, they're locked. You can only do them once a day. And then, Taylor, you told me that in retail, you can only do them once a week, which is fucking baffling to me. That seems insane.
I think it's so funny that, like, when I gave you that information, I was like, once a day is a lot. What the fuck are you talking about? But it's like, yeah. You don't... When you're viewing this game, raids don't look like raids to you. Like, I know what these are. These are you're only getting one piece of loot if you're lucky from a full raid clear a week. And like, it is a long, drawn out, slow, arduous, and that sounds like it's slow in a bad way, but it's just like, I don't know. It's not as slow as it sounds, but like
and between everything.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but you can do a lot of stuff between these raids. On top of the fact that a raid normally takes 20, 30, 40 people that all need to be paying attention, and this thing takes multiple hours, depending on how many times you wipe. Even, like, the best, guilds that know exactly what the fuck they're doing, all 40 people are, top 1% players, like, it's still going to take them hours to do these raids.
Yeah, I would say, like, when you get to a raid to farm, where it's just, like, you straight up, everyone's making jokes while you're doing the bosses because you're not paying attention because it's just that muscle memoried, it's still a 2-hour minimum affair for like the Arcturus, I think is the name of the last raid of Legion. That raid on its own, it was still like a 2-hour thing, even when we had it 100% down. If you ever could get a raid down to 1 day, you knew you had that shit locked in. Like, because my old raiding guild was a 2 days a week. When it was farmed, when you were trying to make progression, that was a 3 days a week guild, and each raid night was, I think, 3 hours. So it was 6 hours a week. When it was like, relatively easy. So
right, okay, so yeah, having them be a week cooldown, if you will, isn't too bad in normal. In this mode, when a raid is taking literally 10 minutes. Okay, it goes from 2 hours of months long of arduous grinding and perfecting to a slapstick raid finder group of randoms. Nobody knows fucking anybody. You just walk into bosses and blow them up like they're nothing. I did it in 10 minutes the first day when I finally, I was max level. I got high enough item level where I was like being accepted into these random raid groups. And these bosses were just falling over like they were nothing. We weren't even close to wiping. Sometimes we didn't even have fucking healers in the group, and you didn't notice it because everyone's got so much built-in sustain and leech and all this shit. And I was like, oh, this is the fun thing. Oh, I'll grind this. Nope. You can only do it once a day. That was the first big, like...
That... Yeah,
pissed me off, and I logged off for the day. I was like, I cannot fucking believe.
The first one was when you thought you couldn't get to level 80 unless you bought the expansion.
Oh my god! Okay, yeah, that was a big moment because there was a bug in Legion Remix where once you got to level 70, your experience bar disappears, and normally what that means is you're max level. So there was some discourse online. Taylor was finding that apparently there was conflicting reports because, this game had this Legion Remix just came out, so not a lot of people were even max level. Or if they were people not like me. They were people who have the newest expansion bought already, and they were just playing Legion until the newest expansion came out. I'm a very unique case where I'm paying the subscription, $15 a month. to play Legion Remix, which is the separate mode that was advertised as anybody can play this. All you need to do is a subscription. You don't need to have any expansions bought. Just subscribe and you can play. Then I get to level 70 and my experience bar disappears and my heart drops. I'm like, oh my fucking god, are they locking me out of the last 10 levels? Because that's how usually WoW works, is like they will increase the level cap, as they call it, by 10 levels, and you can only get those 10 levels buying the newest expansion. So to get to level 80, there were some reports that you needed to buy their newest expansion. That was $50 or 40 or 60, whatever it is. And I'm like, I'm playing this temporary mode. I'm not going to buy this fucking thing for to get the 10 levels. But if you don't get those 10 levels, you can't play any of the end game content. You're stuck at level 70. You don't get any of the... So after all is said and done and all this panic and Googling rapidly, I found out it's just a UI bug and you can still level up. So problem solved there. I get to level 80, no problem.
But so
so then I wanted to grind raids.
When you were finding out that you couldn't raid to get all your end game stuff, you were still playing fucking, like, as you were saying, on average 5 hours a day. What was the thing that ended up keeping you locked into playing?
So obviously I was disappointed that I couldn't just grind these, but there's still plenty to do. So I was still having fun doing this other stuff, and it was just a day where I got pissed because I didn't realize what the system was, but then at the same time I'm like, once a day is still fine. There's plenty of other things to do, and I'm at a point now where I'm doing, you're doing your daily world quest, killing your daily world boss, doing your daily infinite research quests, doing your daily dungeons. I was like, all of these things are still taking 2-3 hours. So it's fine that I can't just mindlessly grind a raid because I have plenty of other things to do.
And I think the other thing that I think you saw ramifications of this is, imagine this was uncapped, right? And
yeah, that's...
when you see how exponentially broken an individual person can make it, it does then kind of be like, they do kind of have to put a gate on this, or else we'd have too many 999% soloing mythic raids on their own. Because, like, at some point, you have enough player, like, just one person in that, you have God mode on. Like, you won't lose. Because everyone else might die, but that guy's not dying, that's for sure.
Yeah, you could have...
that my very first mythic Helya fight was down to a single demon hunter. The boss was at 40%, where she submerges and then reemerges. Only one person was alive. That one guy did the 40% of her health just by himself.
Yep.
And
39 people dead.
It didn't matter. It was a one-man raid. And it was So that can break the game.
I've even had raids where that specific fight to Helya, because she has a transition phase, where my group was so powerful that we phased her too quickly and it bugged out. She permanently stayed phased and would never come back. So we all had to intentionally die. In fact, we were still doing so much damage that we had to self-wipe 3 times before the people who were the strongest were finally like, okay, I'm literally not pressing buttons. You guys need to kill this boss. So we eventually distilled it down. We figured out the top 5 strongest people. They literally stood there doing nothing while the rest of us killed the boss. And finally we killed her slow enough that she phased properly, but fast enough that it was still mind-numbingly easy. Stupid broken OP shit. But yeah, crazy shit is happening in this.
I remember when I was the first one to do a heroic raid. I remember we were dabbling. We were just doing the random dungeons, which you almost never see someone who's usually not too insane, because a lot of those insane people aren't doing dungeons.
Right.
And then eventually we did an LFR wing, which is the dungeon finder version of raid, but it was also brain dead easy. But the big thing is the rewards are so bad that any player worth their skill would not queue up into that. So you only get the people who don't know how to play WoW in that mode.
Yeah.
And we were all kind of like, well, what does real raiding look like? And I know you kind of were giving me the vibe of I don't know if I really want to fuck with trying to find a group and getting assembled. I don't know. That doesn't sound like what I wanted to sign up for. And so I was like, well, I want to see what it's like. And I signed up for Heroic, the very first Heroic in our group. And I was laughing out loud. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know what I was expecting, but on day 4 of the expansion, I did not expect us to ignore all mechanics, stand in every bad pile of goop and the boss dying in 15 seconds per boss.
Yeah,
and
in fact,
I was like, oh my god, you guys, please don't take it seriously. It is a joke. Just sign up, do as many as you can. And that's when I think then when you saw it, you got it too.
Yeah, because we have queued up for a couple raids, and there were moments where before you were done explaining this mechanic that was coming up, we had already done enough damage that the boss phased through it and it didn't matter. You were like, okay, well, at this point the boss is going to do this thing where he blasts this ray and you need to stand behind this shit. Oh, he's dead. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
It's like you couldn't even explain to me what was going to happen. And that actually hurt me in the long run, because there are dungeons that I have no idea how the mechanics work in the dungeons, because everything dies so fast that you literally don't have to care about anything because your characters are so strong. And I know it sounds like stupid, like why are you even playing this? But all my ARPG heads out there know the feeling of just like being able to ignore what you want and just explode stuff. It's just fun.
It truly, to me, they have managed to make an ARPG season in an MMO, and that's what's crazy, because it's that same sense of like 95% of all combat in ARPG is you die or they die in one hit.
Yeah,
and that they kind of made that into a functional MMO game mode. I'm really like, the more you talk about like, oh, what's the point? It is like kind of God mode, but I think about it, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like an ARPG, but you're playing it with a MMO gameplay style. It's just, that's probably why it's working for me, where ARPGs, I don't know, it doesn't work as well as the MMO shell that really clicks in my brain.
Yeah, speaking of the ARPG thing, it reminded me of Heroic World Tier, which is something I wanted to mention. Yeah. So when you're playing the game normally, as you level up and you get into the end game, you're on normal world tier. The whole world, literally the world that you're in, is on normal mode. Eventually things become so easy that they are all one shot. No matter basically what ability you use, they will die in 1 to 2 hits. So it's super trivial to do anything. But then there's an option for Heroic World Tier, and that levels up the entire world. Not just like, oh, goes from easy mode to medium. This is going from like easy mode to like Uber Nightmare New Game Plus kind of shit, where it is a big step up. However, it makes the game fun again, because instead of and to clarify too, even this mode, I have been playing in Heroic World Tier pretty much since you could do it. I am now at the point where I'm 1 to 2 shotting all mobs because of how much I've scaled, how much my power has scaled up. However, when I first did Heroic World Tier, I'm having to pop my like 1.5 minute super cooldowns that give me big buffs to fight like 2 or 3 white packs of mobs, because they were so much exponentially harder. However, it was really fun because I had to use my rotations. I had to actually care about how many enemies I'm pulling. I couldn't just zombie charge through 90 white enemies and kill all of them instantly. Like, I had to actually think again. So now I'm in Heroic World Tier, and I kind of hit a brick wall where I like felt pretty weak again, but I was actually having to engage with the game in a new way. On top of the fact that in Heroic World Tier, this is where there's a lot of like, there's heroic world quests that give you way better rewards. There are heroic infused monsters that have like auras on them and make themselves more powerful, but they give you way better rewards. And this is where you start farming infinite power, which hilariously an hour into this podcast I'm going to mention for the first time. This is the resource that powers up your character. Every 50,000 infinite power you get 1% versatility. And when you do...
And versatility is for every 1%.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, yeah. Go ahead, though.
So like at 100% versatility, you do 100% increased damage, but you take 50% reduced. So it's half as effective as reducing damage, and it obviously stops at 99.
So 200 versatility is like the golden number, where you will now take max reduced damage, and your damage will now just scale, which I just realized is actually where I'm at. I'm almost at that. I'm at 194 versatility, and it's funny because...
You're basically there.
Thinking about that number all this time ago, I was like, I'm never getting to 200 versatility. What the fuck? Like, there's no way. Because
Yeah, see what I was telling you, Kyle. Infinite knowledge, man.
yeah, infinite knowledge, which is a different thing that scales how much infinite power you get. So they've been smart in ways to get you to really engage with their game. They're doing a good job of making sure this mode actually is playable and grindable for 3 months. However, this is something I was going to mention to you because I haven't said this yet. I do feel like I'm getting towards the end of how much I can play this now. I feel like I've gotten
100%.
to the end of my grind, which I guess we can just get to now, really, because at this point, we're max level, we're max item level. Well, no, we're not. That's part of the grind.
I'm basically max.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so probably doing close to your that's why also item level is kind of a scam in this. And like my DPS is probably as high as it is because my versatility is at 120 and not because I have, high item level.
Now, I will say the versatility is really important because I was in a few raids with some other warriors, Fury warriors. And of course, I'm comparing my DPS to theirs to see. And they would often be like 20, 30, 40% stronger than me. And then I look at their versatility and it's like, oh, I'm at 120 and this guy's at 190. So he literally has 50% more versatility on me, which is a direct damage multiplier. And he's doing almost 50% more damage than me. So I was like, wow, it really makes that much of a difference. So, if we ever did a raid together, I probably would be doing still like 30%, 50% more DPS than you. And it just scales like that. So that's what you're doing all of the endgame content for. That's what you're doing dungeons for. That's what you're doing raids for. You get this material that gives you a ton of infinite power. And that infinite power is what lets you level up your versatility. And versatility is the be-all, end-all stat that you're scaling infinitely, as we've mentioned a few times. So I'm farming Heroic World Tier like it's nothing now. I'm clearing out all these raids in 10 minutes because there's all these other fucking crazy people that have like 500 versatility, which means they've been grinding the fuck out of everything way, way more than me. I saw Taylor even saw someone had 999 versatility, which is actually the max. You can't get higher than that. So
even though the stat is technically infinite, they do stop scaling at 990. Right now, I think I have about roughly 5 million health. This guy, same armor class, so we have roughly the same health pool, 108 million.
Yeah. I've seen a couple tanks with 110 million health, and
yeah, obviously he was not a tank, he was a DPS
spec.
Yeah,
so a DPS spec having tank health is fucking wild.
Absurd.
So here we are now at the end of it feels like the end of our Legion remix time. It's been a shame that like Eric hasn't been able to play that much. Daniel hasn't been able to play that much. We were hoping to do this like as a group, but the reality is, this mode really is tailored for individual players. You don't have to have a group at all, which I kind of thought you might.
The only content that you can and should coordinate on is the Mythic Plus dungeons, which are the, 5-man dungeons, but it's scaled up because that scales infinitely. So there's one you can find, but we don't have, like, me and you are in content, or we could be gearing up for the same content. Like,
for sure.
Even though I have 50 less verse, I'm like 720. I'm at the same end game. You could do harder dungeons than me, but we could do mostly the same. Eric is barely into end game spaces, and Daniel's not even close. So, and like, unfortunately, I think this is one of the pieces of feedback that I think they could improve on is like there isn't a lot of content that's worth doing coordinated effort for. Like, we're just too powerful that like even coordinating raids doesn't matter. It's just like the only thing is Mythic Plus, and we just don't have the dynamics to really get that going. And you don't really even need to coordinate. Like, you just found a random group that kind of carried you through yours.
My Mythic 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I had enough versatility that I was like the number 2 DPS in the group, but when I was fucking alive, I was dying a lot because I didn't know what the fuck to do. Because again, I'd been skipping all of these mechanics so much, and so often that when I got to a point where I actually needed to know them, I was clueless. I didn't know what to do.
It is kind of a double-edged sword. Is like that to me is the thing that can get people to keep playing is when you feel powerful. But if you make them feel too powerful, then like you get annoyed when the game asks you to do anything. Yeah. Like take any mechanic seriously, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" It's taking too long, and like that's kind of the bummer part is that we're almost too strong that it reinforces that like even when I'm doing 5-man dungeons in my heal spec, I just hold down W. I have a spinning AoE kick that I do. It's basically I can spam whirlwind.
Yeah.
It's the exact same concept as the healer. So I pull from start to the next boss and wait for the tank to catch up.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's
Because
how
like
I've been doing
it doesn't even matter if everyone else is mad at me. I'm like, I'll just out heal it. I don't give a fuck. Oh, you're gonna kick me out of the dungeon? Okay, I have instant queues. I hit find dungeon and then I get an instantly pop up that says ready to enter. That's how fast the healer queues are.
Because nobody's playing healer because it's so irrelevant.
And you have to have a healer to do those dungeons. Like they just don't let you enter unless you
have a
queue as a healer. And
so it's usually people
I'm
like
so
you
like,
that are queuing as healer, quote unquote, but they're actually DPS and they just can kill everything anyway.
Yeah, and I even do the nice thing where I still stay in my heal spec and have like I will throw out a random heal, but I've never had to actually cast a heal spell. Like I'm sitting there with all my DPS buttons. I'm still top DPS in almost every dungeon because like my versatility is too high. I just use a cooldown that's the fucking on my artifact weapon, but since my versatility is so goddamn high, I just one-shot most bosses basically.
So the actual end game grindable content, which I haven't mentioned, but you did, is the Mythic Plus dungeon keys. These are the maps for our Path of Exile players, are the greater rifts for Diablo players. These are the things where they are a 5-man dungeon, and depending on how quickly you complete it, you have a timer. You're supposed to beat these within 40 minutes. Depending on how fast you complete it, it will scale up this dungeon key, it re-rolls it to a new dungeon, and then it increases the difficulty. So once you reach the end game, there's this vendor in town that gives you one of these keys for free. He'll give you one every once a week because they last a week. He gives you a key. I got one started at Mythic level 2. Very, very simple. Me, you, and Eric actually ran these keys. I was high enough damage at the time that I was able to just do what you were describing. I pull everything and kill everything. It didn't matter. So we were doing these dungeons in like 5 minutes. They would get upgraded a certain number of levels, then we would do the next one in 5 minutes, do the next one, and then suddenly they were taking longer, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and we got to a point where I think I got our key to like level 12. And it felt like, okay, Erica's dying a lot. You're having a hard time staying alive. This is like, now we need an actual 5-man group of people to pay attention. So my character now is at a point where I could probably be grinding Mythic 30s. That's where my strength is. I haven't tried these Mythic keys because weirdly enough, now that I'm at the point where I could be doing, this is the thing I could be running over and over. I could be spending hours and hours a day just running keys because there's a dungeon finder option where it's a bunch of people listing like, hey, I'm running this dungeon at this level, come join me. And it's just, there's a whole group search function for this. I could be joining these dungeons, but I just don't really want to. Once I'm done with my daily rotation of quests and world quests and doing my raids for the day, it takes me about an hour and a half or 2, and by then I'm like, okay, I don't really feel like grinding the dungeons anymore.
Yeah, I'm there. This is an excuse for me to pilot classes that I like. I'm playing Monk, which is not something I've played since Mr. Pandaria, and I'm finding the class really fun, and it lets me hit big targets. And for me, as someone who plays retail WoW, like all the mounts and pets and cosmetics to me are like, this is awesome. I don't have to grind I'll have every cosmetic possible thing from Legion after this is done. So like this will be very cathartic for me to have that. So I imagine even it'll be hard. Like, so I'll have a reason to log in on phases 3 and 4. But I imagine for you, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't even make it until the last raid gets released in 3 weeks.
Yeah, so that was something I forgot about was they are still releasing things in phases. Like just last week, they released a new raid. Well, I guess, wait, does that mean tomorrow they're releasing another thing?
No, because it'll be a week, because it was a week from tomorrow. It was Nighthold was out.
Okay.
So
yeah,
the week after tomorrow.
When we first got to Endgame, there was only 2 raids for us to do, Emerald Nightmare and Trial of Valor. Then last Tuesday, they released the next phase, where they introduced a new quest line that you can do and a new raid. That raid is Nighthold, which is quite long. It has 10 bosses in it, which is very long for a raid. Most raids have like 6 to 8.
No, Kyle, I'm sorry.
Well, okay,
I'm gonna stop
the
you.
raids that I've been doing. The 2 raids that we're
so
doing.
the way to envision also technically the way that they release it is Trial of Valor and Emerald Nightmare released on the same day, and combined they have roughly the same number of bosses as the Nighthold.
Right, just by
so
itself.
It's kind of like, yeah. So they I would say 10 bosses is what you should assume any WoW raid to have. That is the average, is about 10.
Okay. So then the next raid is going to be same length as Nighthold, which is what people were worried about. They're like, when all these raids are out, even with how powerful people are, like how large in just scope these raids are, like just walking from boss to boss and killing them, the Nighthold currently, it takes like at minimum 30 minutes, even with how powerful everyone is, because you just gotta fucking run everywhere and go to these different rooms and travel, a fucking mile.
And because all the enemies are so inconsequential, it doesn't. One of the things I think that makes WoW special is the raids. Like, you do feel like you're invading a massive space surrounded by incredibly dangerous and powerful things that, like, even those trash mobs have, like, hey, there's mechanics you need to know. We need an interrupt rotation because if this guy gets the cast off, we're all dead. It's like, and that's just the random trash between bosses. So, but now that everything is a joke, that all this is just a lot of trash on the way to the actual things that give you the stuff that matter. I will say that Nighthold, because it's designed to be like the city, I think there's a lot more dead space between bosses in that raid than the other two. Though, don't hold me to it, but I feel like there's, especially when you consider there's probably a lot of rooms that are just like giant open rooms with like 5 separate packs you're supposed to pull one at a time that you can now just pull all at once. There's a lot of raid rooms like that in the newer one, rather than like more like hallways where there's a lot of like individual, like the distance, there's less miles between bosses in the Tomb of Sargeras and Taurus, the Burning Throne. Holy crap. And Taurus was a tough one to say.
I did want to do one of these raids has a cosmetic for a 2-handed sword, which is the gimmick of Fury Warriors. You do wield 2-handed swords.
That is the next raid.
Badass. Okay, so that I did kind of want to get just to sport that.
And the good news is, like, in theory, like, you could log in when there's like 30 days left and still,
there's
grind all this stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. So so here we are, kind of at the end of the Legion journey. I've gotten to a point where, like, now I'm doing these daily things and it's not so much fun anymore. It's that compelling, addictive feeling where it's like, I gotta get on to do my dailies, but I'm not really enjoying it. I'm doing it to check it off of my list.
So, based on the let's assume that your account was banned. I don't know, your subscription ended today, and that you did your journey.
Yeah.
What would you be excited for the next one of these?
1,000%. Fuck yes. This has been a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's been so much fun.
That I didn't do too much of Mr. Pandy. I never made it to max level in the previous remix. So I played it as much as I saw what the store looked like. I didn't really even go in and went shopping. But what I find funny is that people were bitching in the PTR for this, that you didn't feel as powerful as you did in Mr. Pandaria. And now everyone's saying in this one, you are 1,000 times too strong compared to how you were in Mists. But Mists, because the way they structured it is that that benefit was shared across all your characters. So, like, your individual power wasn't as great, but every character was as powerful as the next. So you could kind of swap between characters. Whereas this, you have like one individual, literal titan stopping god killing kind of.
Yeah, like all of this time I've invested, I could not. If I switched to a new character, it would basically feel like starting from scratch again. You would have to. I'd have to spend another 80 hours farming these mementos to power myself up again.
Yeah, because like you would need to maybe farm less because you start at the same multiplier, but you still have to get millions upon. Like I have. I don't know, like 50 million infinite power, I probably would have to guess. Or 5 million?
5 million, yeah. 5 million.
But, like, getting to there would take me a lot less, but I'd still need to get, like, it still would be weeks of boss killing,
Yeah, because the mementos that you get to give you versatility, this whole endgame grind, the mementos are all what are gated behind these raids and the daily dungeons and shit. So you're literally just time gated. The only thing you can grind are the Mythic plus Keystone dungeons that we mentioned before. But I mean, maybe if I was on a new character, I'd be inclined to farm those so that I could power up faster. But even then, I don't think so. So
the real secret is to do heroic and normal mode raids while you're leveling. Some people are saying you were getting a couple levels per boss kill.
Yeah, I did see that too. I forgot about that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not too interested in leveling another character, I don't think. And I realize I did make an alt to level with Daniel on the, whenever he gets on. It's fun for us to be the same level and doing the same stuff together. But I was leveling a caster with him, and I realized I fucking hate casters now. Now that I'm playing a melee character where everything you do is instant, you can run around, you can kind of move around while you do your abilities. It's just so fun. I don't like standing still and channeling a spell, which is how spellcasters work in WoW. Is you can't move while you're casting spells. So, maybe I would level up a demon hunter or something.
Next, I guarantee you they're going to have a cast while moving thing.
They do have
the next remix.
I will say they have that already. I forgot they have the Brewing Storm talent, but it's tied to a specific randomized passive ability that'll be on a ring. So eventually, you'll get a ring that's way more powerful but has a different talent. It's whatever. It's the nuance not worth explaining. But what I wanted to say about other remixes, WoW at this point has 8 continents or something, and this remix, Legion specifically, only takes place on one of the continents. And it got me very excited thinking about which other remixes and which other expansions take place on which other continents. And it'll be a lot of fun to maybe they'll remix Cataclysm and you'll get to go back to Orgrimmar and shit, because
you wanted to go to Orgrimmar bad.
I just love that original continent.
Yeah.
It has such a great variety of biomes. This one was a little lame. There's 2 mountainous areas and 2 foresty areas, and that's it. And you spend your entire time here.
I think that High Mountain is the only particularly pretty zone. I find everything else to be really bland.
Yeah.
I think the biggest con I have for Legion is that it's got to be the worst aesthetic zone wise of any expansion I've ever seen. Even the ones that are boring now to me are at least prettier or got more impressive vistas and stuff like that. This one has got neither interesting nor pretty.
Val'sharah is the Emerald Forest is amazing. It's very gorgeous.
Val'sharah is the only zone that I like. Of the Azuna is too boring. And High Mountain is, like I said, is getting around sucks ass, but mountains. It's kind of a cool.
And then Stormheim is a bad version of High Mountain, where it's still mountainy, but it's also Viking gray and boring. Vikings sound cool, but it's not done that cool. Let me say that. It's just not that interesting.
It's Assassin's Creed Vikings kind of it's just not that exciting, not that interesting. Whereas
it's not like God of War stuff where it's cool, but
I even think about the current WoW expansion has us literally going down deeper into the earth. The zones are set up in a spiral pattern where to get to the next zone, you actually enter a room that eventually leads to a very, very deep spiraling staircase that gets you further down, and then you unlock shortcuts. You can technically take a flight path, but it'll be an 8-minute flight, or you can use these kind of shortcuts that spit you all the way back out to the surface. That's more cool. Interesting. Yeah. Even if the zones are, and the zones don't make any sense. One of the zones looks like you're outside. How does it have a skybox? You're in the earth. The fuck are you talking about? But it's just cool shit.
Yeah, there's no way they're just going to put a fucking cap on every zone and you can't see the sun. Yeah. They have to give skyboxes. Yeah. But anyways, that's what I'm most excited about is seeing these other expansion mechanics revisited and ramped up in power, like the artifact weapons from Legion are in this one. And I'm really excited to see other zones and spend time there and play a new character.
What I'm really hoping for is Shadowlands next, because I think that has the most interesting aesthetic. And I think it's one of the most derided, I don't know what the right word is, expansion. So I think that would be a good remix. That's the one with the 4 different factions, and which one you join gives you a specific ability. But because it's basically WoW's Afterlife, there's a lot more kind of cool looking things going on. Because the zones are literally like hovering in space because you're in the afterlife. So they don't make sense next to each other. So they don't. And they're like, yeah,
they
we
can
know
just
that.
be anything.
There's,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say. I've been very happy with Remix, but it's more fun than I thought it would be because there's a lot more that you can do in a short time and by yourself. Like, I feel like I can always get something done. And I like that it feels finite. Like, I see the end. It's not, I don't feel compelled. Like, I think what's great is that you were able to do everything you wanted, like, in a month subscription. And I don't expect you to like, resub, but, like, I don't know that you have to. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, if it doesn't last the actual 30 days, so, like, I will have until the 7th of November. So I'll have another, like, another week and a half. Is that how it
You'll
works?
see. Look, you could get that sword within a couple days and see what that does to your excitement. In a week or so.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm literally debating if I should resub or not. I think maybe I won't if I do have another week and a half, 2 weeks almost. But anyways, yeah, I was most excited to play with you guys as a group, but that's also because I didn't quite know how this thing was going to work. I thought I might need a group, so it was exciting to both play with you guys and know that, like, oh, we would all be doing dungeons, but the reality is you can play this completely solo and it is still fun and it's no problem. So yeah, I'm missing out playing with the guys, but I've done
it turned out
what
just
I
to be
wanted
like
to do.
a good it just turned out to be fun to play as a video game.
Yeah,
which is not normally how you would. It's funny, is like I talk about WoW, like you have to be sick to enjoy it, but it's like it's just a very niche like type of game, and this to me felt like a much broader. Like you don't have to you kind of have to like be okay with WoW's like fiddliness to really like it. Like it's objectively like got problems in a way that you can't just hand wave away. Other than like, well, it makes sense to me, and there's nothing quite like WoW. Like that's the reason I'm always kind of okay with its shortcomings is this, like, it's such a massive scale that like there's just nothing quite like it. But I'm glad how much this has been kind of like a standalone fun video game that is just like, you think of it, you pay $15 to rent this kind of fun weird mod that someone gave you of a game you used to play.
It feels like a private server, really, like an old school private server where like the rules are all broken intentionally to make you more powerful and just let you have fun more quickly in a cool way.
I think they're learning that this is a good model that they can do in-house that like is kind of like a fan. What I hope is they hire some of those like fan servery people to like kind of be on those teams, like, and spin up like little. That's the way they used to do it, right? You would get the people who would hack you and be like, all right, instead of hacking us, why don't you work for us and make the cool shit?
Yeah.
Make that cool. Like, though the fan mods turned into, working for that company. But we'll see.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. They just sue people who make cool versions of their game. The Turtle WoW guys getting...
Well, okay, Kyle,
but I know,
do you know they are literally... That one's like, fuck the Turtle WoW guys, too. Like, fuck everybody in that picture.
I don't quite understand why they thought they were going to be able to do this. They're literally remaking WoW. I mean, it's Blizzard's IP. Why are you guys remaking this and collecting money for it and thinking you're going to be able to get away with it?
Literally, they just cut out... Like, I think what they did is they got high off how much people liked what they were doing, because I think everyone likes the idea of a Classic Plus. Is like, after the Burning Crusade, like, set WoW off in a different direction than if Classic did.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, well, what if Classic was they just built off of that? That makes sense. And that's what Turtle WoW is kind of like, but then they were like selling so much of money based off assets they didn't make, but Blizzard did.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about,
yeah,
guys?
And
like,
I don't know the nuance of like, because they allow, add-ons to their games, so clearly they're letting the players customize stuff and make mods and do things, and they've never cracked down on private servers, I guess, until somewhat recently. There was that one private server like last year that got shut down, and now Turtle WoW is recreating World of Warcraft, basically. So I don't know what the law is for these things.
The big one has so far, they have only ever targeted people as soon as monetization becomes like, once it gets so big that they start to like have a Patreon set up or something like that, where like they start to ask people to give us money for this, is where Blizzard tends to step in. Because you're right, because think of all the fan servers you played, like there's probably ways you could spend money, but it was all like within the like once you log into their game, they start to sell you shit like maybe. But
yeah, no, back then it wasn't like that. I mean, I played private servers in like 2007. Burning Crusade private servers.
Okay,
So
and that's
no, it was just people doing it for fun. They're like, I want to play my custom version of WoW that's like hyper powered. And turns out other people want to play that too.
Where they tend to step in once there is money involved. And if the project gets a lot of noise, I think that like their lawyers probably will always want them to step in. But for the most part, those servers it's always against the rules, but it's kind of like a thing of like, well, no one's really going to enforce that unless it's a little sketchy. Because in the same way that you technically could get banned for some of the add-ons that people use because it's against term of service, but
yeah, it's one of those.
Are you really going to ban someone over that? Like, fuck off. Like,
yeah.
That's how you lose a fan base is when you start to become too litigious and I think old school Blizzard had the reputation of being like the most friendly.
Yeah.
So
that's
they should be careful around that stuff.
That's how this whole foundation of private servers, custom mods, that kind of stuff got started. And now that the Turtle WoW guys, they're making, no doubt about it, an amazing version of WoW. It really is like, let's say they didn't do the expansion stuff. Let's say they just continued classic WoW, added new zones, added new stuff. Like, they're doing an incredible job, obviously, but they're making like millions of dollars a year on this now. And it's just, I could see that being like, you guys are making millions on a game we made. You're customizing it and modifying it, but like, we made this. This isn't your game, and you're selling it like it's your game. So I get it. But anyways,
it's one of those things that I think it's kind of like that doesn't matter. But I think we're gonna manage to tangent ourselves way out of never.
That's why I was trying to be like, okay.
At the end of the day, WoW Legion Remix, 2 thumbs up from both of us.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Ryan, you should play it. I don't know. I assume he's never gonna play shit, but
I don't know.
Until the next one, I guess.
Yeah, that's all I got. Legion was fun. Legion Remix was fun.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.